Hey guys, my name is Mitsumiyo, and today I'm excited to say that we now finally know all the information about the new upcoming season for Rainbow Six Siege. And so first and foremost, we have the new offensive operator Nuke, who looks incredibly powerful. The way that her gadget works is that she can essentially silent step around the map similar to Cav, but the cherry on top is that as soon as she activates her ability, she also becomes invisible to basically every single one of the cameras. Now, the way that you are able to identify if she's nearby, though, is really only if she goes through some sort of animation or if she starts to run around. If she crouch walks or slowly moves while her gadget is activated, not only does she make less sound, like I said, just like Cav, but on top of that, there is going to be literally no indication that she's actually nearby. And so if you want to, you can bypass basically every single one of the cameras in the game, and as long as you do it properly, defense is going to have no idea that you're there. Now, she does come with some counters. For example, if there is an Echo gadget nearby, or if Mozzie has taken over one of the offensive drones, if she steps near one of them, there will be a distortion on the screen similar to the way that Vigil works on the defensive side. So if you have those operators, you'll at least have a general idea that she's in the vicinity, but you of course won't know exactly where she is. On top of that, if she does get gooed by Lesion, every single time that she takes damage, there will be kind of this distortion of where she is located. And this is actually the thing about Nuke, is that if she goes through an animation, like having to take out the goo mine, for example, vaulting over an obstacle, there will be this short little distortion that kind of gives you an idea, if you're paying very close attention, that she is in the vicinity. But other than that, she is honestly probably going to be the stealthiest operator that we've ever seen in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, the one big limiting factor of her, though, and I'm assuming that this is one way they're trying to balance out her gadget, is the weapons that she's going to have access to. She's only going to be able to use a 612 SD Shoddy and the FMG9. If you guys ever played as Smoke, you know that the FMG, it really isn't all that impressive. And so while you might have some of the best tools to be able to sneak into the objective and catch people by surprise, you're going to need to use that advantage as much as you can, because your weapons really are going to be fairly lackluster compared to almost every single one of the other offensive operators in the game. All in all, though, Nuke sounds terrifying. The entire meta right now in Siege is information gathering, using the wide variety of tools that you have at your disposal to figure out where the offensive team is coming from, and to have an operator that just completely negates that by their very ability is going to really be changing things up. And so while it remains to be seen how competitive she is going to be in the long term, I have a suspicion that in the right hands, she is going to be very difficult for the defensive team to work around. Now, as for the new defensive operator, we have Warden. Now, we already knew that he had some sort of special glasses that would allow him to peer through smoke and also stop the effect of flashbangs. But what we didn't know was exactly how it worked. And so if you want to be able to see through that smoke screen, because they're trying to plant the diffuser, you have to actually activate your ability. You're not going to be able to see through smoke at all times. That's what some people were kind of speculating. You have to make the decision to actually activate the gadget. On top of that, you also need to do the same thing if you want to mitigate or remove a flashbang. The thing is, though, is that if you do get flashed, you can immediately just activate his glasses and remove said flash. He is going to be the ultimate counter to Blitz. Even if Blitz actually gets the flash off, he just clicks his gadget really quickly, and now he's going to have a crystal clear view of what's going on in front of him. And so while he doesn't really have the best weapons, very similar to Nuke, he's only going to be able to use the MPX and the Shoddy available to the SAS operators. I think he is going to be an incredibly powerful anchor on some maps and some objectives. Now, he does come with some direct counters in the form of IQ and smoke. As soon as he activates his glasses, IQ is going to know his exact location. And so if you really need to get that plant off, you put down a smoke screen, what you can do is have the IQ waiting for him to round the corner with her own gadget activated. I still feel like he's going to have the advantage in that situation because, of course, she's only using her secondary, but if you really need to try to take him out, that would be one way of going about about it. On top of that, if you do have a Thatcher, as long as you get an EMP next to him, it is going to disable his glasses for a short period of time, and so that's another way you'd be able to work around that combo. And then finally, you do need to stand still if you want to peer through smoke. It isn't like the way that Glaz has worked for a long time now, where you can use your movement to your advantage and kind of like push in towards the actual objective. You are going to have to anchor in one spot if you want to see what's on the other side. It's also not going to light up for you like Glaz's Iron V. People aren't going to be a bright yellow, so it's still going to be sort of difficult to know what you're looking at in some situations. I think my biggest disappointment though with Warden, and this is also true for Nuke, is that while I love their gadgets, I think their gadgets are going to add in some really cool new dynamics and flavor into Rainbow Six Siege, is the fact that we're not getting any new weapons to play around with. This, I believe, is the first time that this has happened. Normally, of course, every new season, we get the operators, but on top of that, they have new weapons to use. And that's just not the case here. And so all in all, while I'm still incredibly excited to play as these operators, they look like a lot of fun, I know that some people are going to be disappointed by this news, me included. Now, the one thing that I'm probably most excited about with this upcoming season is the rework of Cafe, and from what we've seen so far, it looks incredible. Now, if you're worried that this is going to be another Hereford where they rework it from top to bottom, don't be concerned. It's still going to look and really play probably very similar to the old Cafe, but they've tried to solve a lot of problems that the map had for both offense and defense. Probably the biggest adjustment, though, is down below in the basement or on that first level. A lot of people avoided this objective because, admittedly, it's probably one of the worst ones to defend in the entire game. The offensive team has a massive advantage. And so what Ubisoft has done is that they've moved that center staircase more towards the front of the building. They've obviously added in a couple new rooms. They completely reworked the way that the kitchen is laid out. There's now going to be a lot more different lines of sights and angles that you can take advantage of, but they've also moved where the objectives are located. You're probably not going to be able to simply jump through a window or walk through a doorway like you could before and then plant the diffuser. You're going to need to establish a little bit more presence in the map itself before you can actually play the objective. And so all in all, I'm really crossing my fingers that this basement level is much more competitive than it was before. It really was the biggest weakness of this map, and so as long as they are able to accomplish that, I think it's going to be a massive improvement. That isn't the only adjustment that the map got though, because the top floor, while it's not as extensive as a rework as the bottom area, also saw some pretty great changes. First of all, there's now going to be a second hatch that offense can take advantage of. A lot of times it felt almost impossible for offense to even get into the top floor because you really only had that one hatch, or you could jump through the skylight, which usually didn't work out all that well, or you had to leave yourself vulnerable by rappelling on the outside windows and then jumping on in. And so by adding in this second hatch, it will hopefully give offense a bit more mobility and allow them to establish at least a foothold on that top floor. They've also extended some balconies from the bar section and a couple more rooms on the side as well. This was also an issue, not only for offense because there just wasn't a lot of ways for you to approach the objectives, but also on defense too. There really wasn't a lot of ways you could move around that top floor to try to get different angles on the offense that were pushing from the red staircase, for example. And so in general, I cannot wait for this rework. It remains to be seen how competitive it's going to be in the long run. We will only really know until we get our hands on it, but it looks like Ubisoft took a lot of the weaknesses and criticisms that people had on this map, expanded upon it a little bit, and made the necessary improvements. And so overall, I think that this is going to be a massive upgrade from what it was before. The final big change that we're getting this season is that Glaz is going to be getting his rework. We learned about this a few seasons ago, but essentially what Ubisoft is doing is that now if you want to be able to peer through a smoke screen, much like with Warden, you have to stand still. As soon as you start to move or move quickly, it reduces or diminishes entirely his Iron V scope. The reason why they've done this is that before, or the way he works right now, is that you would smoke out the objective, push on in, and then take everyone out. They can't see you. You, of course, can see them. That's incredibly powerful. And so by requiring him to stand still, they want him to hold angles. They don't want him necessarily pushing in aggressively. They want him to be long range, which is what his character design is all about. All in all, though, I am incredibly excited for this upcoming season. I will admit it does seem a bit light content-wise, especially if you compare it to past updates, but at least the stuff that is there seems substantial. The 2 new operators seem like they're going to be a bit of a game changer. Of course, Cafe Rework is something I've been waiting for quite some time. They are going to be adding pick and ban. I didn't mention that. We talked about in a previous video. Pick and ban is coming to ranked, and of course, Glaz is getting that rework. Accumulated all in all, it does seem like it is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's update. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the 2 new operators. Are you looking forward to the rework of Cafe? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.